Hello, everybody. I am Renan Corrêa, and I'm participating in the live Inside Track Brazil today. This is an event that is being organized by a group of people in Brazil, and the idea here is to share knowledge with you all regarding different topics from SAP, and also the idea is to contribute to a non-profit organization in Brazil. There is a QR code right below my camera, and if you scan this QR code, it's a link for making a donation to an entity in Brazil that helps children that are in difficult social conditions. So if you want also to make a difference in the lives of people, you can contribute to this cause. I am here today to talk to you about a topic that is not something very new, but it's coming up in the implementations across the globe, and it's not a well-known topic among all SAP consultants. And this topic is the SAP e-document solution. Officially, the solution is not called SAP e-documents. It's part of a solution called SAP Document Compliance, but SAP is very good at renaming their product, and nobody really knows the full name or the current name. But e-documents is how you can find more information about it on internet, and that's why I decided to use the e-document name. My goals with this presentation are to describe the concept of a document. In some countries, it is already well known. In other places, it is something very new. The reason why SAP created a framework and focused on creating a global framework for e-documents. And I also wanted to give you some examples of what are the benefits of using such a solution or the challenges that come with this kind of implementation. And in the end, I also want to summarize how does it work from the technical perspective. Just a brief overview. I'm talking about this topic. I've been working with SAP in the last 12 years. I worked 8 years at SAP, and last 4 years I'm doing implementation as a partner. And this is a topic that started to be implemented around 2014. So I already have 6 years of experience working with document related processes. The first thing that is important to conceptualize is what is an e-document? Basically, an e-document, it represents data from an SAP application in a very specific predefined format, and it is sent and communicated to government or business partners. It represents several different business processes from SAP. It can be from the SD billing, as our invoices. It can be a process that doesn't have billing, just a delivery. It can be based on FI documents for credit notes or payment receipts. And it can be related also to other types of documents, like in Brazil, we have nota fiscal. So the e-document is basically a representation of a business process from an SAP application that has to be sent electronically to partners or government. And why does these e-documents exist? So basically, governments around the world, they wanted to find ways to ensure that their taxpayers are reporting the business transactions and the business's processes that they run in order to avoid tax evasion. So the idea of the e-documents is basically to connect electronically the taxpayers when they do a process, be it a sale or receiving a payment or transmitting goods between their plants. And the government wants to know when does it happen and validate if the values are correct and if the taxes are being collected at all. So this is the main reason why these e-documents are coming up in several different countries. And just to give you a brief overview about what is going on worldwide in terms of e-documents and e-invoicing, I can summarize that we have very mature already processes that are defined in some countries in Latin America, like Brazil, where basically any kind of sales process, delivery, transfer between plants is already documented electronically and approved by the government. It also happens in other countries in Latin America, such as Mexico and Argentina. They have a certain complexity within them because not like in Europe where we have VAT, in Latin America there are different taxes. So it's not just one value added tax included in the document, but it can be several different taxes that are due on very specific scenarios. So the amount of data that is informed to the government and the complexity of the rules for filling these documents is quite high for Latin America. In Europe, in the past 3 years, we had lots also of countries that were implementing e-documents. To name a few, Hungary, Italy, also Poland, they all were implementing some kinds of e-documents, and even for certain processes within the European Union, they created a format called the PIPOL, and this format is a EU-wide format for e-documents that should be used in transactions with governments. And we also have the APJ area in Asia. The implementation is rising, but it's not as many countries as in Latin America or Europe. To name a few now, in India, there is a huge wave of e-documents to be implemented. The current deadlines are a bit uncertain due to the health crisis that we are going through right now, but the adoption of these processes globally for e-invoicing, they are growing in the last years, and it's a trend that is here not to be diminished in the coming years. Probably more and more countries will come to this approach in order to have better control of the taxes and ensure that collection is done properly at all means. The SAP solution for e-documents, it is comprised of processes that happen both on the ERP, be it ECC or S/4HANA, and also on its cloud platform or on partner solutions. So the idea is that this SAP document compliance, which is the solution that involves the e-documents, is an end-to-end solution that can help you from the generation of an electronic document related to a business process in your ERP until you deliver it to the government approves, and then you can also send it, depending on your process, to your business partner, so they already know that the invoice they are going to receive in their plant is approved by the government and the taxes are correctly calculated, so you can enter this information in your system with a higher degree of certainty of what you are receiving and about also the fiscal topics. The solution from SAP involves different processes. It can communicate with different authorities, different technologies as well. And that is one of the advantages of using this document technology that is being developed and also adapted by SAP and its partners. Right now, I can give you an examples from the current countries that are implementing or have already solutions implemented by SAP. So if we talk about Latin America, we have Peru, Chile, Mexico, Brazil. All of them have solutions with e-documents, but also Europe, like Spain, Hungary, Italy. So this e-document already covers different scenarios within the SAP systems, and it's interesting that it's just growing. We started with very few countries, and now there are more than 15 countries already using these requirements and these solutions from SAP. The solution architecture and the idea of the e-document is very interesting because what happened in the past, some countries, mainly in Latin America, started to have their own patterns and own standards for electronic documents and electronic invoices. And these processes, they had different solutions from SAP. So for Brazil, you had one monitor with one kind of data mapping and one kind of communication with the government. In Mexico, you had a different solution using iDocs and a different method of communication with the government, different technologies from SAP. In Argentina, you had a separate cockpit, totally separate technology. And what SAP realized is that if all countries start to develop e-documents and e-invoicing, it's not sustainable to have 100 different cockpits for invoicing. So SAP gathered the knowledge they already had from this first project and created a framework that could be applied globally on different processes, and it would be enabled to cover the scenarios in different countries. So the idea is that we have a core stable functionality that allows you to process varied types of documents, and these can communicate with the government, be it web service or other technologies, but with the same technical standards from SAP. So if you have a process implemented for Chile and you have another e-invoice project in Peru or in Mexico, the cockpit, the look and feel of the transactions is always the same. And also how it works in the background, the technical foundation is the same. So it's easier for your IT team or for partners to develop a complementary solution and to implement it, to roll out this to a different country. That is the idea of the e-document solution. And to talk more about these, I would like to emphasize a bit of the company pains that motivated this. So when we are talking about e-invoicing and national standards, we have one problem that is very common, that is the frequency of the changes. In some countries, you have stable laws and things, they are the same for several years, but you have other countries where the law changes very fast and you have several legal changes during the year, and you have to implement these legal changes sometimes in very short notice, 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 months maximum. And this brings a lot of complexity to managing a global system. Also, these changes they impact a very critical process in the company, invoicing. If you can't get e-invoicing working correctly, you have a big problem because you cannot send goods to your customers. You don't recognize any revenue. So the criticality of the process and how you have to handle it is something very, very difficult for if you have different scenarios and totally different technical solutions. Also, the level of complexity you get from different countries is totally different. In Europe, for example, if you take a look at Italy, it has medium to low complexity because they use VAT, they have just a few tags, the XML is not so complex, and not all details of a transaction are included in the file. But if you have a look at scenarios from Brazil, for example, it's a totally different story. The documents are very detailed. There are 5 taxes in the document. You have to calculate and also to include legal information from different states or different cities, so that laws are not federal, they are really changed depending on the state. And this brings a lot of complexity, mainly if you have global IT and you have a global organization that has to take care of the company system for 20 countries, and just one is demanding changes every month to a critical process that require deep expertise of the business process and the technical solution. So that comes to the next topic, that is supportability. If you have these kind of implementations, it becomes very difficult for a global IT team to implement even small fixes to a solution in a country because they have no idea how it works and it's totally different than the others. And this requires you to have either specialized resources or depend a lot on third-party consulting, and some of the projects might be complex and long which increases the costs of operating the system. So the total cost of ownership of the system is really increased due to all these legal requirements related to electronic invoicing in 20 or 30 different countries. So these are the biggest pains the company had in the past, and these are the things that the document solution tries to address. They try to bring more stable and more centralized solution, aligned solution that can help to decrease the complexity, the issues that you have doing the maintenance, and also in the end to decrease the costs of implementing and deploying SAP solutions in different countries and rolling out to several places. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about technical aspects. The e-document framework, that is the technical foundation of the SAP document compliance solution, it is more or less provided in two packages from SAP. You have access to a basic solution and to a full solution. What is the difference of them? The basic solution, it includes only the ERP e-document part without any mapping or communication with governments, and any interface that you want to do to map the data and communicate requires you either to develop this part or hire a partner service to do that. So the e-document basic solution is not a separate license from SAP. It's already licensed inside the ERP or the S/4HANA system. And if you want to use a custom specific interface that you develop or a solution developed by one partner, you can hire this service directly from the partner. You don't need additional licensing from SAP. On the other hand, the full solution that includes both the ERP part, creating the document, controlling the cockpit, the details of the tables, and also mapping it to the format of the country and the authorities that you need to communicate, and also take care of the communication part. So it provides you mapping and also the, let's say, the middleware to communicate these data mapped to the government and receive the responses. So it is a solution that involves end-to-end processes since the document is created in ERP until the document is sent and authorized to the government and you receive the response. But to have this, you need a separate license from SAP. You are due to have a new license, and these will require then you to use the SAP Cloud Platform for the communication part. So this requires you to either contact your account executive or contact SAP sales to get this license part done. Then you can start using the full solution from SAP. So these are the two possibilities for the document. It is a very, very flexible solution from SAP, both for the cases that you want to have more control of the implementation, or for the cases where you want to have SAP involved or SAP standard solution in more parts. The technical landscape or the solution landscape, both if you have the basic solution or the full solution, it is similar. You have on one hand the ECC or the S/4HANA system, where you create an e-document. Here in the slide I mentioned what are the versions that you can use, the minimum version that you can use the document solution. And then this is the ERP part that is included in both solutions, basic and full. Then you have the communication part and mapping part. This you will have either from SAP in the full solution or your implementation or partner implementation if you go for the basic solution. But the interesting or important point is that you have this communication component in any kind of implementation. And then the third part is the government or the recipient, be it also a business partner. In some countries, it is a requirement that you cannot, or SAP cannot, or the partner consulting partner cannot communicate directly to the government. So what happens there is that they have a figure, an image of the local partner, which is a company authorized in that country, usually based on that country, that can communicate with the government. In the SAP full solution or also in the partner solutions, you will need always to have this local authorized partner for certain countries. That is something that happens in Mexico, for example. There you always have a Mexican company that is certified by the government to do the communication. So you have one additional intermediary step between your platform, SAP platform, or partner system until you get to the government. Here is more already, I'm going a bit deeper, always deeper in the technical part, but this slide just represents the technical process behind the e-document. So you have in the beginning the user, represented by this very nice stick figure, and this user will interact with a graphical user interface, the eDoc cockpit, and this eDoc cockpit is the presentation server which communicates with the application code to persist data in the database. And after that, you either trigger your mapping from your partner or custom implementation, or you triggered an AIF, which is the solution used by SAP to communicate with their cloud platform. And then in the end, you have the communication with the tax agency from the government. This is a summary of how technically the solution works. And in the next slide now, I show you both the basic and the full solution side by side. So on the left hand side, you have the basic solution, and the technical part provided by SAP is basically reading a source document, be it any kind of document, an SD billing, an MM document, an FI credit memo, or an FI invoice, and transform it to a source data that is persisted in the e-document tables and the e-document solution. And from there, you have a body that is the interface connector, and it allows you to connect to a custom solution designed by you or to a custom solution designed by a partner. And with that, the rest of the communication is done outside the ERP then. On the right-hand side, you have the full solution from SAP, where you have the same technical process in the ERP until you get to the interface connector. On the interface connector, SAP will then provide you an AIF, which is an application integration framework. And this integration framework will trigger then a call to their cloud platform. And from their cloud platform, they use different technologies to communicate with the government and build the layouts that are required. So basically, this AIF will do the mapping of the data and the call to the cloud platform, which will then do the communication part, or also the digital signature in cases digital signature is required. And here is more for techies. It's a technical representation of the framework. What is interesting here is that SAP created it with classes, and the classes have different countries in the coding. So if you have a look at how the e-documents are created in Mexico, there will be a class CL underscore document underscore Mexico. And the Mexico specific handling is done there. And that is the same technical solution for other countries. That's why it is a very interesting framework. So some processes and some steps are common for all countries. So they have these common classes. And if you have very specific steps, then you have them included in the framework. And then SAP also has some redefinitions of classes to do specific steps on specific countries. And that's the component of reusability that allows, for example, partners or your own IT team to reuse ideas they already learned from one country to the implementation in the next country. And that makes the framework easier to support and also easier to understand from the technical point of view. The foundation is always the same. So as soon as the team is aware or the partner is aware how the e-documents work in Mexico, for them to migrate and do an implementation of e-documents in Italy or Spain is a smaller step because the technical foundation is the same. They just have to learn the new mapping and the data would be properly mapped to the new solution. So this technical framework is very interesting and it's the core of the solution on the ERP side. Now talking about some of the benefits and challenges. I already mentioned to you that there are two possible solutions. One is the full solution and provided from SAP, and the other is the partner solution provided by partners or from your custom implementation. And what happens here? In the standard solution for SAP, you have a variety of countries that you can do the implementation because that depends on the SAP development team who will create this technical content for different countries. When you look at partner solutions, you have an extended scenario because partners already develop countries where SAP doesn't offer a standard solution. So if you look at countries like Uruguay or Panama, where SAP doesn't have a standard solution yet, some partners already did implementations there, and it's technically possible for a partner to extend the e-document cockpit to do this implementation in a new country using the same technical foundation. Another difference from these two solutions is the impact on ERP updates and ERP changes. The solution for an SAP, on one hand, it uses AIF, and this AIF is based on SAP nodes. So these are changes that you need to do on the ERP side to get the mapping correct. And if you have bugs, the corrections are always provided via SAP nodes, and you have to implement new nodes. On the partner side, the solution can be really varied. Some partners deploy it with transport files, so you deploy a transport file with base coding that communicates with the partner solution, and most of the mapping and the logic is done in a cloud part. So wherever it is needed to make a change or adjustment, it doesn't depend anymore on an SAP node on a change on ERP, but rather a change on the partner system, which is much more flexible in some cases, because they are not using a global ERP system that has to follow a template. So in this case, the partner solutions can be a bit more flexible, different from SAP solution. Also, during the implementation, most likely you use an SAP partner. Some companies have IT teams, internal in-house IT teams that do the implementation, but in most of the cases for e-documents, what I have seen in the past is the companies will hire a consulting partner. And here the difference is the support that you get. When you have the full solution from SAP, you depend on SAP messages. So if you find a bug in the system, you need to raise a ticket for SAP, you need to explain the ticket to SAP, you need to wait all the time they take to analyze, and they will check if it is something that should be included in the standard system, it's really a bug, or if it's a new feature that you want. And if it's a new feature, you might not get it because SAP is not developing enhancements for that scenario. But when you have a partner solution, you have usually full range of processes, and if you want enhancements, you can pay for them, or if you want to have a different kind of mapping, it's easier to have this done from the partner because they already prepared spaces where you can do this kind of changes. And the last but not least, the cost part is that when you have the SAP part, you will need to license it with SAP. And depending on the country, the cloud fees are different, and also there can be volume-based elements. But when you do that with SAP, usually the cost is a bit higher because you have to pay for SAP services that are also already included in the maintenance fee. When you have that with partners, usually it's more flexible and you can do different kinds of negotiations with partners because usually it's not a a global contract that requires certain specific clauses. So these are benefits and challenges of each part or each solution that is possible with the e-document cockpit. And here is the main screen of the e-document cockpit. And if you take a look at the image, I would like to highlight that some parts of it are common to all countries and some parties will not be, they will be different. When you have a look at the left-hand side, you have this result overview area, and this result overview, it shows the e-document processes that are available in different countries. What happens there? Based on your authorization profile, you can see your country or different countries. In my example here, the user is authorized to see the processes from different countries. So they have Hungary, India, Mexico, Portugal, and Spain there. And you already have a summary of the e-documents created, and the screen has a filter on the last 30 days. So this is a common part. Any e-document solution will be there with the country, and the second level of information would be a process that is executed. And then you have the main part of the cockpit, that is where the electronic invoice, the document, is represented. The fields there, they are totally custom to the process that is being executed. So when I'm showing here the Hungary invoice registration, if I click on the India e-invoice or in the Mexico e-payment, you will see different fields in the ALV grid, and you also see different buttons. And all of these is customizable for an SAP. So this is not something that is hard-coded on the screen. You can choose. It's configurable, different processes, different steps, and also the order of steps and what kind of step can be done with which status of a document. That is all configured according to the document and to the country. So the e-document cockpit presents this main screen with the result overview and the ALV grid with the documents, but the actions that can be executed, the steps that are available for each document, they all vary and they are flexible. So this is based on configuration. It's very interesting, and that is also something that allows you to create new processes for e-documents. So let's say that SAP doesn't provide an e-document for the nota fiscal service in Brazil. You can create a process for that, and you can include it in the document cockpit and develop a solution or buy a solution from a partner, even though there is no standard solution for that. And it works. And with a certainty that the framework and the style that is created is the same as the SAP solutions. So the supportability is similar, and also the technical foundation. It's interesting. And how to approach these two parts, the SAP implementation with the full solution or the basic solution with a partner or your own IT. I already have my own recommendations. I highlight here that the first step from this technical part would be to install the document framework. The document framework is provided by SAP in an SAP node. You have to update the nodes for the framework, for the base part of the document. And in the notes, you also have the initial customizing that contains solutions that are cross-country or necessities that are cross-country. So this would not change much. If you use a partner or SAP solution, you have to install the document framework or update it. Depending on the version of ECC or S4HANA that you are running, you might have the e-document framework already installed. The transaction is called edoc_cockpit, and you just have to update it with some correction notes until it is with the last version. And then the second part after that, after you have this installed, then it varies a lot if you are doing a partner-based implementation or SAP-based implementation. If it is with partner, you have to make an agreement, a commercial agreement with the partner. They usually provide you a transport file that you have to deploy in the system. and they will provide you also configuration tables or bodies where you can enhance the solution, or you can hire the partner also to do this part of the implementation, both the technical installation and the configuration and developments that are required according to your scenarios. And when you do that with SAP, you also have the commercial part. You have to buy the license from SAP, make this agreement. You have then to install the e-document add-on, which contains the AIF, which is the integration framework that contains the mapping and will trigger the process in the SAP Cloud Platform. And you also need to subscribe to the SAP Cloud Platform. So these are the next steps if you are using the full solution. You have to do this setup of the cloud platform, put your certificates in SAP Cloud, and then test the communication from your ERP. For that, SAP provides help, documentation, and guides if you want to do. If you are using the basic solution with partner, sorry, I think I got a small internet problem, but now I'm back. I was talking about the partner part of the implementation. So when you are using partners, they use different technologies sometimes, but most of the cases, it would use either an RFC connection or a PI-based communication. So for next steps with partner implementation, you would need to have this setup. Can be done by your internal IT team, or it also can be done by your partner. And to be honest, that's the presentation. And I'd like to thank you all for assisting it. And if you have questions, I give you also my contact details. You can find me online, LinkedIn, and also in Twitter, or if you prefer to send me an email, my email contact, I will just check if there is any question. If there is no question, then I will close the presentation, just thanking you all for attending it and checking the details. No, I don't see any. Well, I don't see any questions. Then I would like to thank you all and have a nice evening and or nice day and nice weekend. Thank you.